Rabbi Yeruchim Silber is the director of New York government relations at Agudas Yisrael of America. He's a very close friend of the show at this point, and it's a privilege. Rabbi Silber joins us to discuss this fiasco at the East Ramapo school district, in which a surplus of $30 million was miraculously discovered. I wish I could have that kind of luck, but only after a 5% tax hike, which due to the non-existent deficits. Rabbi Silber, welcome, and what are your thoughts on all of this?
Well, thank you for having me. Well, where do I start? So, yeah, I mean, the big news yesterday was if we heard for months and years that there's deficits, and the commissioner came with this huge 5% tax increase. Actually, it was 4 because the voters voted on 1%. The voters voted 1%, but she added
right
the 4.5, so a total of 5.5. They found miraculously $30 million. So there's a lot of background over here. I don't know how much I could bore you with some of the background over here.
Well, no, I'd love some of that. So I'm just going to ask one pointed question, but then you get as much background as you want, and that is that it's hard to believe it's a $50 million deficit because they claim $20 million deficit, $50 million disparity, I should say.
Right. Disparity.
So
it is hard
to believe, especially with people who have not exactly been best friends with the Jewish from community. Hard to believe that it's like an oversight or miscalculation.
Oh, we don't know. Look, I haven't seen the audit. I'm just going on. So you have to be fair. We have not seen the audit yet.
Yes.
We're going on reports. It is. I mean, it's. If you saw, we issued a press release today, and we used the word bewildered because it is bewildered. It's bewilderment. Like, where does that come from? Like, I understand people make errors, 1 million, 2 million. That happens. Listen, like accounting errors happen. It happens to all of us. But I mean, listen, some of it may have been one-time money. For the COVID relief, it's possible some of that may have been that. So, but it's just we don't know where it got lost. But look, according to these, according to this audit, it is actually the $50 million disparity. So yes, we're not trying to figure that out. But this is a background. Yeah, I'll try to make it quick. This has been going on for better than a decade, probably close to 15 years. With the problem of it, what's going on in East Ramapo essentially is that there are about 40,000 school kids in East Ramapo school district. However, only 10,000 are in public schools, and the other 30,000 are in yeshivas and Beis Yaakov because it's most primarily from Orthodox community, and the kids go to yeshivas. So there's automatically disparity. Now, what the state does generally. The way schools are funded through school tax, through property taxes, except in New York City, we pay income tax, but all over most of the country, property taxes are what funds schools. Now, New York, obviously, some districts are wealthy, some are poorer. So there's disparity because obviously the wealthier districts will have more money, more of a tax base, and will have better schools. So the state has a thing called foundation aid, and foundation aid essentially is state aid that's supposed to be used to make up the difference for those localities that the tax base is not enough to support the schools. So essentially, the poorer the district, the more foundation aid they receive. That's the basis of the foundation aid. This is a long time. There was lawsuits going on for 20 years, and there were always been fights with the governor, the legislative. It's fully funded, not fully funded. I won't bore you with that. The problem over here is, and this is going on for years, the way the foundation aid is that it's a complicated mathematical formula. So, but the way it's basically calculated is the number of, it has to go with poverty levels and the number of students with the deficit that the taxes don't cover. So in an ordinary district, you have whatever amount of public school students, and you do it per student, and that's your foundation aid. The problem is they only count the public school kids. They're not and there's only 10,000. They're not counting the rest of the kids, so automatically there's going to be a shortage because they have less kids. Also, another reason they consider it because of the price of housing, they consider it a wealthy district, and it's not a wealthy district, as we know. It's not at all a wealthy district. So you have this disparity. Now, the problem is the tug of war because the public schools need to be funded. Now, look, our kids go to yeshivas, but we want good public schools because good public schools make better citizens. No question, all of us want to have good public schools for all our kids. No reason why kids shouldn't get be educated. So when it's not a zero-sum game, it's not us against them. We don't play that game. They play that game. We don't play it. We don't play the game of us against them. We want good public schools and we want yeshivas. Now, there are certain services that are required by law for every private student to have. Transportation, busing, transportation, special ed, lunches, other services that are required for the district to provide those services. Now, when you have short of money, where do you go? These are required services, and the public schools need that money. So automatically, this is tug of war. Now, what happened, unfortunately, was there were certain extracurricular services that had to be cut because they had no choice. There was not enough money to cover everything, and all of a sudden, the yells come out. Now, anti-Semitic. Now, the board is majority Orthodox because, look, it's a fair vote, a Democratic vote, and the majority of the district is
Right.
So of course they blame it on the board, and the board would like to see strong public schools. And by the way, we've seen language, horrible language, coming from the ACLU and from the NAACP, calling it a Jim Crow district. Now, Jim Crow is the worst racial thing you could accuse someone of. It's the most ugly racial epithet to accuse someone of a Jim Crow type of schools. That reminds you of the segregated South, and that's the language has been used for years. Donald Lieberman, who's the head of the New York Civil Liberties Union, has used that language for years. So it's a horrible thing. And they're basically calling the board a bunch of racists because really most of the kids in the public schools are minority kids, are Black and Latino kids, and they should be educated. So we've had that tug of war now. They've done different things. At one point, about 10 years ago, they said, okay, we need a monitor. Fine, we'll get a monitor. And the legislature authorized a monitor for the district. They authorized the educational monitor,
right?
And a fiscal monitor. Sorry?
Yeah, fiscal monitor, specifically overseeing.
Yeah, there was education and fiscal. Then they decided there was no change. Okay, not good enough. We have to give the monitor veto power. So this was back in about 2 or 3 years ago. They added extra veto power to the monitor. I will say the monitor has never exercised the veto power except one time when the board and all factions, the private schools agreed on hiring a superintendent. They, for some reason, they said no, she's no good, and they exercised, the state education department forced the monitor to exercise the veto and not allow them to hire that person they were going to hire. That's the one time they used it. But still, it hasn't changed. There's so-called deficits. Last year, a former assemblyman, Ken Zabrowski, who left the assembly, he introduced a bill that essentially would have had the state take over the entire district. Thankfully, it didn't get much traction, but that was what they wanted to do. And by the way, the commissioner was behind that bill because clearly she admitted it. They worked together in that bill. They wanted a state takeover. Last year, now the way it works, the residents vote on the budget. They voted on a tax increase. We know taxation without representation is tyranny. The American country was formed on that basis. We fought a Tea Party against the British. So the voters voted for a 1% tax increase, and the commissioner went ahead unilaterally and decided to impose an additional 4%, which we're not sure if it's legal, not legal. I guess our lawyers.
It's never been done before. Yochanan Dunn says that he did research. It has never happened before in the history of the state.
There's one precedent from about 1923, over 100 years ago. They found a precedent, but where it's something similar to that. That's the one precedent.
Okay. I'll tell Yochanan. But anyway,
they did fine back then. But yeah, they did that, and the board went along because they would have. The commissioner has really a lot of powers to shut down this whole board. And there was talk about litigation. There was a lot of talk about it going to court and seeing if it was legal, testing the legality of it. But now we came up with this $20 million. So we're calling on the commissioner to rescind the tax and refund the taxpayers the money they paid. And I must tell you, two people that have been great on this, both Senator Bill Weber and Assemblyman-elect Aaron Weed, who has not even taken office yet, and he's all over this case. He's been great on it. And
we spoke with Senator Weber. And he's been amazing. I think the question people want to know is accountability-wise, how can they really enforce that? Nobody really knows if there's a way to rescind the tax. Nobody really knows what kind of pressure is going to be placed. Bottom line, I think that's really the question is like.
Well, the statement the commissioner opposed it. She can rescind this. She has the same power. If you oppose it, you could rescind it.
Right, she can. We understand, but she's not exactly our best friend. And by the way, amazingly, someone sent me, on Facebook, the comments. When Senator Weber held a press conference to discuss this whole issue, the comments are actually blaming the Jews. Here it is, like we're the victims, and it's like, oh, where did they hide the money? And those types of accusations. It's chilling.
And there was a fiscal monitor. How the fiscal monitor didn't catch it it's a mystery, a real mystery. Again, it's not like a $2 or $3 million accounting error, which can happen, but this is $50 million, and there's going to be another forensic audit. They've called on the state controller to audit as well, so it's not over yet. There'll be additional audits. to see what that money went.
Yeah, there'll be an investigation.
We are calling what we really want. And by the way, we think some of this money was one-time money because there was a lot of with the COVID funding, there was a lot of money went to schools. That really bailed them out for a couple of years. That COVID money saved the district, but that money's gone. It's running out. It was a one-time shot. It's gone. Whatever they got, they got. We're not getting any more of that. So we are calling, and we've called publicly for the state to redo the formula because it's not fair where a district that has such a large percentage of private schools not being. So when they redo the foundation formula, and there's talk every year, there was a commission created last year in the budget. They set aside about, I think, $1 million or so to fund this commission. It was done by the Rockefeller Institute, and the guy that headed was someone named Bob Megna. He was a very respectable guy. He was once home budget director, so he's very knowledgeable and respected throughout the state. Respected by all parties. He was the head of that commission. They were waiting for their report. We don't know what the report's supposed to come out soon, and the legislature is supposed to use their recommendations come January to redo the form. But we're calling on, and I know that Senator-elect Weider is rare when he takes office, raring to go. One of the things he's gonna do is to work to fix that formula to make sure that it accounts for districts like East Ramapo that have a large percentage of private school students to be included, so they get a more of a share of foundation. Everyone's happy, so there's enough money for the public schools and for the non-public school services.
And that's a very big deal, obviously. But again, I guess in terms of how you respond if somebody says that, look, Commissioner Rosa, and look, we know the history with Commissioner Rosa and the secular guidelines and all of that. So this is a systemic trend that we're seeing. But if somebody says, listen, she's in charge of the whole state. She's not in the weeds and the nitty gritty of a budget of this particular district. This is really something on the local level. How do you respond to that?
Well, every budget has to be approved by the state education department. So they saw the budget. They have to approve that. Every district submits a budget to the state. They need to approve it. So they approved it. You assume they would review it before they approve it. You would hope that the people there that would review the budget before they approve it. Interesting.
Them, right? And like you said, the fiscal monitors. That's interesting. So in other words, again, I don't know as far as the school board, as far as the superintendent made a comment, and I'm told the superintendent is brand new.
He's new and he's very good. Actually, the superintendent, I will say, he is new. He's an interim superintendent because, again, the person they wanted to hire, they were not allowed to hire, but he's very good. And he announced publicly when they had the vote back in, I guess, September, so I forget what, August, September, I don't remember when, a few months ago.
DiCarlo, yeah.
When they voted to do the tax increase, he got it publicly and said that the problem is the faulty formula. He said, clearly, a tax is not going to raise even whatever brings in will not bring enough money. The only way to fix this problem, we've been saying it for years, and there's a resistance to it. And the commissioner was asked, by the way, she did an interview a few months ago with Zabrowski on this show called Capital Press. It's a popular show in Albany. It's a very well-known radio show. And the host asked her, they said, look, Commissioner, isn't that a fact that the foundation or formula doesn't? She poo-pooed it, well, not really. And they kind of just, just went around without really answering the question. Answer question needs to be answered, and we're going to demand answers on that.
So I guess finally, okay, great. And I guess, again, people just want kind of like results, not just the same old, bureaucracy without anything getting anywhere. So I guess the two real questions that the bottom line, do you think this was just an accident, just a mistake? Do you think there's a chance this was done intentionally?
Look, I don't know. I don't want to, describe anyone's motives. Right now, it's there. Whether it's done intentionally or an accident, doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is, if this order is correct, and we assume it is, and I'm sure there'll be additional orders, there's a huge disparity over there in the funding. It has to be figured out. There needs to be a real forensic order to get to the bottom of it, how that happened, how such an error could happen.
But it's more the motives. It's actually, there's going to need to be an accounting. I know it's early on, but like, who signs the check?
Right. Hopefully a forensic audit will get to the bottom of it, see how this happened. Right. And if it happened, someone should be accountable for this. Whether it's fiscal monitor, whether it's someone needs to be accountable for this.
I mean, I don't understand. And again, we don't know the details, but like, it's really hard. Like if the security guard's supposed to be guarding the building and, some bad guy gets inside, the security guard is the first line of defense. So
right. I don't lose a job over that.
So I'm saying certainly the fiscal monitors, again, I'm not accusing anyone. It's all allegations at this point, but like, it's hard to possibly understand any excuse. But I guess the question is going to be, you really expect 6 months from now or however long from now, let's even say, you expect that the heads will roll, that there will be firings, not let alone the tax being rescinded? Or do you think it's going to kind of
I mean, fiscal monitor's already gone. He's not the one that did. Is not there anymore. So that fiscal monitor. So
right. Not related to this, but right.
I mean, look, I don't want to predict that if it's certainly found to be a serious error, a serious misjudgment of someone or something, then the head should roll. But again, I don't want to speculate. We don't know what caused it. We don't know what happened, so I don't want to go speculating. But yes, if someone's found to be responsible, they should lose. They should be held accountable. No question.
And just to clarify, I mean, again, if this whole thing is wrong and there really is a deficit, that's a different story. But in other words, even if it was a mistake, we're speculating if maybe it wasn't a mistake. But even if it was a mistake, it's really an egregious mistake. So in other words, if the facts turn out to be true, somebody here made a massive mistake. I mean, we don't know who, and that's enough in this situation to be held accountable. I think we'd all agree.
Right, okay, which is fine. There'll be a forensic audit, and the controller is going to do his own audit, and hopefully we'll get to the bottom of it soon.
Okay. Any final? First of all, you've been amazing. First of all, thank you for clarifying a lot here, which is a lot of details we wanted to know. I know you're on top of this for, like you said, over a decade. This is not, something you're walking into. You probably know more about this, like we discussed in general, the local politics and New York politics. I would imagine better than all of us. Because you've forgotten more about it than most of us.
That, but there are a lot of people. I will say that I don't live in Rockland County, but I have a colleague there whose name is Shrek. He's very on top of it. There are a lot of local kind of been very involved in this issue for years. I'm more on a macro state level, but yes, we've been Agudas Yisrael even prior to my being there has been involved in this issue. When they did the first monitor back in, I think it was maybe 2014, it was that we were involved in that one. Yes, so we've been involved in this for quite some time.
Okay, we will leave it at that. Rabbi Yeruchim Silber, Director of New York Government Relations at Agudas Yisrael, and very special person, very special Askan, who we appreciate. Thank you so much. We hope, and by the way, we hope to have you on Mirza Shem as things develop.
Okay. Thank you.
Rabbi Silber on the VIN Podcast.